Hello everyone, this is Diane. I am working on some ephemera for my Heidi journals. So trying to come up with some unique pieces for my journals, and I decided to continue using my vintage wallpaper. I had just done a video showing tags that I had made with vintage wallpaper, which I didn't make for this journal. I don't think I have any of them right here. I could use them in the Heidi journal, but that's not what I made them for. So anyway, I was on the wallpaper kick, so I figured I would do another wallpaper Stashistry, but also include Tim Holtz paper dolls in it. And I'm also using a die that I don't use very often. So I have this die that does a Polaroid shape. So it's just a square pretty much with a window in it, and the bottom part is wider, like a Polaroid would be. And so I'm going to show you how I made these little cards. This could be tucked into a pocket and used as a journaling card, but because I want it to be central to a page, I think I'll probably glue it on as a tuck spot so that you can just turn the page and see this. So I made two the same. They'll go in two different journals. I actually hope that the littler journal isn't too small for these. Looks like I got some glue there. Let me grab that journal cover, because this is a little book. It would fit. Okay, good. All right, so each journal gets one of these. And then I made this one, and this is fabric back here. I made this one with a vintage book, children's book illustration, and this little Tim Holtz boy is standing there with his hand on the goat's back. Goats are in the story of Heidi, you know. And this is from another children's book. These are not Swiss children. I think they're German. It was from a German story, but I have these vintage children's books that have European children in their traditional costumes, and many of them look like they could go with the Heidi books. So I put that in there. And I have this little girl sitting on the edge of the frame. So she could be Clara, and that could be Peter, and this is Heidi. So as you can see, I used a label. I stamped the label and cut it out and glued it on. I have little snippets of lace up there. This one has a little edging on it. And I didn't add anything to this because the goat, I tried a little piece of something here, but it looked like the goat was trying to eat it. So I'm just going to leave that one the way it is. Also, while I was at it, cutting out my Polaroids, I added other dies. As I run the die through my machine, I didn't want to just cut out one piece if I had all this extra space on the wallpaper. So I added more dies and cut out extra pieces that I have for future projects. This was the center of the Polaroid die, so I have these squares, but then I started putting a stencil or another die in the center of the Polaroid die, and so I got heart, and then I have the negative that I can use. So I've got all of these pieces to use later, which is fun. So I went through my Tim Holtz children to find those little boys and girls. So I have them in different sizes. So I have a couple more of the Peter boy and a couple more little ones of Heidi. So I don't know, I might use them in the books also. So I'm going to tuck these away in my drawer so I don't lose them. And put my little figures away. And I had some extras. I cut out extras of the Polaroid frames, so I decided to go ahead and make some other cards that you can see. I made a video. I actually did a video of making the ones I just showed you, but I kind of did something out of order on one of them and trying to tell you what I should have done. I just thought it was confusing. So I'm going to try to do it right with these. So what I have done is I used my die to cut out the frame out of wallpaper. You can use scrapbook paper if you don't have wallpaper. I took a piece of cardstock and cut it the same size as the die, which happens to be 3.5 by 4.25. You may have a different die with different dimensions. So I cut it out the same size, and then I took my Polaroid frame and laid it onto a book page that I liked the image on. I tried it on various ones before I found some that I liked. Some of them would have, you know, the picture that I liked, but then text there that I didn't want. But I found this owl picture that I really liked. So I laid this on and drew around it with pencil to get the size. I should have cut a little bit bigger around it because I am not going to have a lot of wiggle room with this one. I did cut beyond the border of the pencil that I drew, but I should have made it just a little bit bigger. So what I will do now to make sure that I glue this on in the right spot so that it will be in frame, I will lay this on here and then just make a little mark right there and right there, and that tells me where to line up my corners. So if I put the corners of my illustration with those corners that I just drew, I'm going to lay this on just to make sure it's where I want it. And I think I want it up just a little higher because there's a little bit of text right there I want to cover. So I'm just going to move it up just above those little pencil marks. And I'm going to glue it down. And before I press it too hard, I'm going to check this out. Yep, that looks good. Next, when the glue dries, I will sew this. I will put this on and sew all around it. But I'm going to let the glue dry, and while that does, I'm going to glue my little label that I stamped and cut out right here. Of course, you embellish these any way you want to. And then I'm going to put a little dab of glue right here where the stitching won't be, so it'll help hold it in place when I start sewing. Once I have that done, I will add my embellishment. So I stamped and cut out this circle, and I just have this little number cut from scrapbook paper. I think it's a little big, so I'm going to trim the border. I still want to see that brown border around it, but it doesn't need to be so wide. I'll put that up there, or I might look for a little piece of lace to put up there, but we're not going to do that yet because we have to let the glue dry and sew the frame on. I'm going to do another one, prep another one. So this one is an illustration from a vintage children's book again. I'm going to erase my pencil lines. This is a very fragile book page, so I would have to use this in something where I would glue it down or Mod Podge it, decoupage it. So in this case, it will be glued. This is the piece of wallpaper I'm using. I think I did cut this one with a little bit more leeway. Chances are I'm not going to be sewing through where the glue is, but I might get a little bit of it, so that's why I want to wait till the glue dries. And you can do more than book pages. You can do ledger paper back there. You can do music paper or any kind of book text, dictionary page, scrapbook paper for the background here. You can do fabric. In fact, I did some fabric and I showed you one with the Heidi. For the Heidi journals, there's a couple of them that have fabric, and I have some here, so we're going to work on them also. So for this one, I just have this little gentleman in his suit and knickers sitting on the edge of the frame, and then I just have this die cut of daffodil blossoms that I'm going to put at the top. It looks like a nice spring arrangement. This one's adorable. This sweet little girl with her kitty. Now I thought I would put a Tim Holtz kid on this one also because it has a little girl, but nothing looked good. I didn't like anything I put there, and I think it is because of her colorful costume. So pretty. I did not want to distract from her by putting another child right here, or even right here. I didn't want to cover up the cats. So what I ended up with was this vintage Denizen blue butterfly. So that won't be the thing that stands out to you. The butterfly will kind of blend in but still add a decorative touch, but this is what you're going to look at. And I'm using another of the daffodil die cuts. I didn't glue this down. By the time I get these finished prepping, I can go back to the first one and do the sewing. This one's a really old wallpaper. You can see the back of it, how brown it was. It's more papery than vinyl. And then this will be glued up there. Oh, let's do the label. And then we're on to the fabric ones. I think this one could go in a Heidi book, and maybe even this one, or maybe even the owl. So I had 2 for each journal, and those are just for the junk journals, not the smash book that I'm making. But I thought if I found images to do a couple more, I could put one in each signature, so there'd be 3 in each journal, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. So I just tore a piece of fabric, and I like to tear it because I know it'll be straight, because it tears right along the grain. So I tore the piece of fabric to fit, and then because you tear, you get the little threads hanging off, little fringy threads. So if something is hanging off, once you glue that down, you can just trim the little threads so that they don't stick out beyond the frame. So I am going to use my fabric tack and glue the fabric down to the back. So I do have some fringy stuff hanging off the edge here. I'm just going to trim it. And it's all set. So those are cut bigger. The fabric pieces are cut bigger than the book pages were, because I just framed the book pages where I wanted to make sure the image was where I wanted it to be, and cut around that. But this, the fabric I cut just to cover the whole card, so I don't have to mark out where to put it. So I'm going to put her on here, and then I'm just going to add a little piece of lace up here. So these are going to be some extra tuck spots or pockets in my stash. So you can either glue down 2 sides and use it as a tuck spot, or glue down 3 sides and have a pocket with a smaller tag inside. And it's kind of fun to find fabrics or book pages that go well with the colors of your wallpaper or whatever kind of frame you made. Still got some fringy stuff going on here. Now I'll put this couple here and a little piece of lace up there. If you don't have a die for a Polaroid, you could always just cut one with your X-Acto knife, but I know I wouldn't fuss with that. Maybe you could cut one with your Cricut, if you have a Cricut. Okay, let's go back to the first one we did that should be dry by now, and we're going to sew it. I'm going to turn my light off because it makes my sewing machine cast a reflection right here. So the first one I did, I started down here, and by the time I got over here, it kind of pushed my frame off center a little bit, which was okay. It didn't make it look warped. I just trimmed off whatever of the backing was showing. But I'm going to start at the top because that seemed to work better. And I'm going to go slowly because these pieces are thin and I just want to make sure they stay where they belong and don't get pushed aside. I'm using a straight stitch with a longer stitch. Not a basting stitch, but just a little bit longer, like I always do when I sew on paper. Gotta look at the bobbin. It didn't sound good. Nope. So far it's doing good. It's gonna be having a problem pretty soon, I can tell. But I have ordered plastic bobbins, and I hope that that is gonna fix my bobbin tension problem that I keep having. But at least you'll get to see me make one. So far we're doing good. And I'm just going to sew across the top here so this doesn't lift up. And then I'm done sewing. I'm going to add this and this and maybe a little bit of lace. I like that. Love the owl, of course. Maybe I'll put him with my owl ephemera. My owl collection of stuff, so that when I make an owl journal, I will have him right there so I don't forget about him. So this is just a little flower that got cut in half. So I wanted to make sure I put the flat side up against the edge so it doesn't look like a flower that got cut in half. Just a flower that's come to the edge. Does that make sense? Got a little messy with the glue there. So there's one finished project. I hope I was in frame. I think I wasn't, and I'm sorry. I'll zoom out a little bit so I have more room. So there's that. I'll do another one, and maybe I'll do a fabric one also. And hopefully you're not going to get bored with watching me do these. But I think it's fun to see how each one looks different. Just not sure how long my bobbin is going to last. Sometimes if I take it out, just take it out and put it back in, it behaves again for a little bit longer. But usually I just have to pull off the remaining thread once it gets low and fill it up again, and then it's okay till it gets low again. It's still sewing. Oh, okay, we're gonna do this part. I forgot to turn my light off, so I'm in shadow. Part of his foot's gonna hang off. Let's do a fabric one. Done the same way, I just want you to see it done. So this is a little bit crooked. There's a little yellow peeking out there and down there. So I'm just going to trim. Okay. And sew across the bottom. It is time to do something about the bobbin. So right now I'm just going to glue, so we're good. So I'm going to glue her down, and whatever lace I choose, I will just glue it instead of sewing it. Got my little bucket of lace scraps. See what we can find in here. I like that one. It's a vintage piece. And because it is so fine, I think I do need to sew that. So I will put a new bobbin in, fill up my bobbin. Looking for my wipes so I can wipe that nozzle off. So I can fill up my bobbin and then sew that piece of lace down, and then that card will be done. I'm going to find a piece of fabric for this couple before we go away. Well, didn't I just cut that off of something? What'd I do with the rest? Here it is. Might as well use it up, right? That looks fine there. Maybe it's a little big because a couple sticks out into the center a little more. I'll just make it a little shorter and glue it there or sew it there. And I think that will be fine. So we did a half hour today. I can show you some of the flips that I made. I did some fabric flips. Some of these will be for the Heidi journals and some won't. Look at that. I love the pink gingham. This one, I took a scrap of the pink gingham, put it at the top, and then this was fussy cut from a piece of fabric, and I just sewed that to the top. And this one, I didn't want to cover up this beautiful fabric. It's one of my favorites. So I took a piece of eyelet and sewed it along the side edge to give it some more detail. This is the fabric that this flower was cut from. So I fussy cut her and appliqued her to the fabric panel on top of that. There's some of my Dresden plate pieces that I got that somebody sent me, and some of my yellow eyelet. I wanted to use eyelet in my Heidi journals. It just seems to fit. So a lot of these flips have eyelet. There's some eyelet with a ribbon threaded through it. This one's probably too bright for these journals, so it will not be used in them. There's some vintage embroidery there. And some of these might be too big for the journals, but we'll see. I just was putting them together while I watched a movie or YouTube or something the other night, and sewed them together today. So now I've got some ready. I want to make some smaller ones, including some little clusters too, to add into the journal. Alright, so I have to finish these, and I'm going to show you again what we did. This one, when it is done, will have this little blue butterfly down here, and this. And this one will have this piece of lace sewn up there. And then for the Heidi journals, that's the same one. So this was fun. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you will give it a try. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you with some more progress on the Heidi journals. Bye bye.